It was October 2020, and life at this point was kind of chaotic.
We had set sail in the bus a couple months prior, and our relationship was at an all-time low because we left our traditional stick and bricks house to be able to have freedom and get to know our kids, get to know our family, make our relationship better. Well, at this point, it was not better. In fact, it was pretty low. All of our problems that we had in a house just followed us into 300 square feet of living into a bus. Kyle and I were fighting constantly. The kids were just not doing great, and I needed to make a change. So I decided that I was going to go to individual therapy. My friend had recommended her therapist, which I still use today, and I scheduled a call with her. And I'm nervous, right? Like going to the therapist for the first time, that can be nerve-wracking. I had seen a psychiatrist years prior after our accident, and seeing a therapist was something that I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, but I know that things need to change. So I go to my first appointment. We talk and I tell her what's going on. And the next thing she says at the end of the call is, Jen, have you seen the Emotions movie from Disney? And I was like, Inside Out. And she said, yeah, you are Joy, before Joy realized that there's other emotions in the awareness that need to be seen, valid, and heard. And so in that moment, like something shifted and something clicked for me that, oh, I have other emotions in my body and I can't just stuff them all under a rug and pretend everything is fine and happy and wonderful, because it was killing me, it was killing my marriage, it was killing the relationships with my kids. In that moment, that was the beginnings of me discovering emotional alchemy. I'm just gonna make some tea while we chat. The next thing she said to me was mind-blowing. She said, Jen, I want you to know that control is an illusion. Nobody has control of anything ever. All we can do is manage ourselves. And that statement was profound, because here I am thinking that everything is an overwhelm. How am I going to deal with all of these emotions? This control freak was coming out in me. And she said, don't worry. I want you to work on breath work. I want you to work on breathing. When you start to go through some big emotions, I want you to breathe. Her saying that to me gave me the realization that life is very much an individual journey. It is not up to our mom, our dad, our sister, our brother, our friend, or anybody else to manage our own emotions. That is 100% up to us. Now, people around us can definitely help us and help regulate, but at the end of the day, we've got to be the ones to manage ourselves. So this sent me on a very long quest to figure out how to manage my own emotions and learn emotional alchemy, which for me is the ability to manage my emotions no matter what moment I'm in. I think for me, my ego had to die. My ego had to die a long, slow, painful death, because our ego wants to make it about us. Our ego wants us to be the victim in every scenario. So the first step, we're going to drink some tea. One of the best things I ever learned was that the only person coming to save me was my future self. Of course, there's going to be people along the way that are tools and that are help and that are friends, and that we don't have to do it alone. They enhance our life. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to manage our own emotions. And so what does that look like, right? It looks like first identifying the emotion, label it. I truly believe that labels limit you. And that can be positive and negative. In this way, the labels limit that big emotion once you say it out loud. So if you're experiencing anxiety and overwhelm, say, this is anxiety, this is overwhelm. And as soon as we label that, instantly, that big emotion goes down a little bit because it's been seen. So we want to make our emotions seen, valid, and heard. They want to feel listened to because there's a reason why they're going off. And in a previous video, I talked about shadow work and tracing that trigger back to the trauma. And that's essentially what we're going to do there. So we've got to label that emotion. We have to put parameters around it so it stops expanding. That's the first step. We've got to identify what the emotion is and take a breath. Because once we can take a breath, we can clear out all of those big, nasty, crazy, heavy emotions that are in our awareness right now, and that's not allowing us to get to clarity. And so once we bring down these emotions, it's time to trace it back. Let's trace it back to whatever popped up in your head, right? Like just now, I was feeling agitation because I'm trying to make this video and I'm getting interrupted several times. Because I'm getting interrupted, my agitation is going up. And normally, previous Jen would get furious. My agitation would turn to rage that I'm just trying to do this. Why can't you stop? But here's the thing. That's my problem. My agitation is my issue to grow through. It's not my son's. He's just asking for help. And so when I feel these big emotions, I label it right away. Okay, this is agitation. And as soon as I can label that, it puts it into perspective for me not to allow it to go further. Where does this come from? This agitation I was just feeling about getting the dogs water in the middle of my video. Before I can trace it back, I've got to do some breathing. I've got to clear out whatever emotion is going on in me right now. So I take 4 seconds of an inhale. I pause. And then exhale for 4 seconds. And I do this as many times as I need to get to that level of clarity. Tracing that agitation back, it's that I just want to finish doing what I'm doing. I need to get this done. I need to get this finished. And the anxiety just keeps rising because I'm not getting it done. I'm getting distracted. I'm not finding the words to say. So much overwhelm is happening. And so by taking that breath, I'm able to trace it back to that's what's going on. I'm agitated that I'm getting interrupted in my video. And yeah, that is frustrating. That is agitating. And because I always want to have an and, I want to make myself seen, valid, and heard because these emotions are real. They cause a reaction in your body. That's a real thing. And there's a whole other piece to it. I have to have empathy and understanding for my child who's really just wanting to get his chores done and asked kindly for help for me to get some water. And so in seeing both sides, I can see the bigger picture, right? Remember that ego wants us to be the victim, wants it to be all about us. But what if we flip it around and we make it about our calm, our finding calm in the chaos? When we can do that, we can manage ourselves anywhere. Say we get agitated and we yell, that rage comes out. We apologize for it. When we're settled down, when we can breathe, when we have clarity, we can go back and apologize for the things that we said or the agitation that we had. Emotional alchemy is curated in those little moments every day. The little moments when somebody cuts you off in traffic, or your kids are upset and they yell at you, or your spouse needs you to fold their clothes. That initial flare up of that anger or rage or frustration, whatever emotion comes up, that's a byproduct of something in here that needs to be seen, valid, and heard. And once we're able to do those 3 things, that emotion just dissipates and we're able to be an observer of the situation instead of inserting our ego into it. Because that ego is conniving, that ego is tricky. And here's the deal, when we realize that we are the only ones that can truly manage ourselves, we realize that, oh, okay, we have the power of choice. We have the power to choose to label these emotions. We have the power to choose to use our tools to be able to come back down to clarity. Because life is very much an individual journey. We are the only ones coming to save us. And when you master emotional alchemy, you can save yourself anytime you need to, no matter what moment you're in or where you are. When we begin to see ourselves in a different light, we see others in a different light too. That own inner voice can be so controlled by the big emotions of anxiety and blame and shame and criticism. All of these emotions are completely manageable. And you can do it. You can become your own emotional alchemist. The first step, taking a breath and labeling that emotion. Whatever flare up you're in, label it. I'm going to link an emotions wheel in the description so you can see the vast range of emotions that we have every day. These emotions are very real and they can overtake us. And so we've got to be the ones to find the calm in the chaos. We can't leave it up to other people. We can't expect other people to manage us. We have to manage us. And at the core, that's what emotional alchemy is. Because when you can manage you, you set that standard for the others around you in learning how to manage themselves too. And so your house just naturally becomes much more calm. When we're in fight or flight all the time, our nervous system goes haywire. Our nerves are shot. These emotions being in the driver's seat are what cause this dis-ease. They're what cause stress. They're what causes so many things that are negatively impacting our life. So remember, labels limit things. Label the emotion to limit it. Once you label it, it puts a cap on it. Then we're going to breathe. We're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. We're going to hold it for 1 second. Then we're going to exhale through our mouth for 4 seconds. And we're going to do this as many times as we need to. Don't feel ashamed if you have to do it 10 breaths. By the end of those 10 breaths, you're going to have clarity. Once we have clarity, we're going to trace it back to whatever caused it, whatever's stemming from it. And we're going to make that emotion feel seen, valid, and heard. Once we can do that, then we can have that and, right? Because there's always an and look at it from the other person's perspective. Because chances are they're not intentionally meaning to make your emotions go haywire. They're living their own life just like you're living yours. And your emotions are your responsibility. And so if we need to apologize, we do. If we have an outburst, once we get calm, cool, collected, we've seen it from their perspective, we can go back and say, hey, this wasn't cool. It wasn't cool of me to do this, and I'm really sorry. That must have hurt. And then we can grow from that. And the more we practice emotional alchemy, the management of our own emotions, the quicker we get at it, the less times our emotions get to this crazy level where we have to apologize so much. We can get right to where we can just label them. Boom! It puts a cap on it. It limits it. And you're able to come down on your own. You don't require other people to help you. You can do this. Just take some practice. I've been doing it for 5 years now, managing my emotions. And recently I've discovered the name emotional alchemy. That's what we're doing. And when we can do that, we inspire others to do it as well. Imagine what your life would look like if you could manage every single trigger you had in like 30 seconds. It's a pretty powerful tool. Don't forget, it is Pay It Forward for Ethan month, so please join me in doing a random act of kindness every day in the month of September. in honor of our son Ethan, who paid it forward all the time. Let's make this September so beautiful and so bright. Thank you for being here and being you. I love you so much. Have a safe trip home.